bit about when you sold to Cold Springs. I don't want to forget to talk about this a little bit because they wanted you to come on board in the business. And so that's kind of an interesting um, part of your career, which was not normally what you would have probably wanted to do.
No, they wanted to merge the company
Yeah.
with Cold Spring Agri Services because they had started up their Putnam facility, but they had merged in with Jerry Pilkington. He had Avon Elevators,
Mhm.
Seed Dealer, and Norwich Fertilizer. Morris Eccles
Mhm.
had merged into there, so they wanted to get a third one that had logistics, and we were large in tobacco and cash crop at the time. But I wasn't interested in merging on there and working there and with the whole company. I wasn't finished with what I was doing,
Mhm.
and I kind of need freedom on there as well. So we did agree to sell them the farm supply unit of it. And I can remember sitting in the boardroom and negotiating. And Hugh Lumens looks at me and he says, "Okay, I'll do this deal. But Mike, if we're going to jump off the cliff, we're holding hands." And he
Right.
says, "You're going to work for us a couple days a week for a couple of years on there." I says, "No." But we did negotiate down to 1 day a week for a couple of years. And so then I would have my days. So now you got Morris Eccles and Jerry Pilkington and me, so-called, upper management and running it. Look, there's three big heads in a room on there, used to getting their way on there. So it's just too many. And then Tom Cowan, he's
Mhm.
the CEO of Cold Spring Agri Services. He says, "Well, listen, we got three big heads in this room. You guys can't agree on paths going forward. Let them run that side." He says, "Help me in my role."
Mhm.
So, I remember having vision starting up in the agronomy department. Eric Bosveld was who we hired for that
Oh, yeah.
position, who we know, and, doing budgets and stuff. I was very familiar with computer spreadsheets and accounting on there where the others weren't. So I would work with, finance on that and work in their operation. So I learned a lot. And I
Mhm.
probably spent more than a day a week there. I learned a lot from Cold Springs and Cold Spring Farms. They would have me sit in on meetings on the farm side, senior management meetings. I said, "I know nothing about turkeys or cattle or development." And they said, "That's why you're here.
Huh.
They want somebody that doesn't know it." So it was almost like going to, college or university again,
Mhm.
almost getting your MBA in real business. So that was a fortunate thing for me to be able to have that time with them and learn a lot.
Mhm. So you could take those learnings back to your other interests and business items that were going on.
Yeah, and especially the rail. I was intrigued by rail. And they had rail operations there. And of course, Future Transfer is very large in rail operations now
Mhm.
on their transloading, storage, what have you, on there. So no, I did pick up a lot from them on that and took it into Future Transfer.
Mhm.
A company gets touched by so many different forces, internal and external, or whatever, which kind of shapes it as it goes along
Uh-huh.
on there. So sometimes you feel like you're a pinball being bounced around. So just hit the good ones.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You have a lot of other business interests as well that you're involved with, and I think each one of them has some connection back to the root of what your plan was going out of the gate. I mean, I know that you veer off the road over life for sure, but what are those other business interests that you're involved with? Can you talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, and what the catalyst for that was in 2015, there was always companies that wanted to buy Future Transfer. It was never for sale, and my succession planning that I was already starting to do in 09, 010 was to find another person to work with me, sell off part of the business to split something, and help me go along because it was getting quite large, the company at that time. And a friend of mine who had Belmont Farm Supply on there, and I'm talking to Graham about it because Graham was younger than me and quite a bright guy, and I knew his father well, and everything. He says, no, I like my farm supply business. I want to grow up, but I have a brother-in-law. He's got more degrees on a thermometer, well educated, but he's from the farm on there. He really wants to get into business. So long story short, I brought in a gentleman named John Lansing, and we spun off part of our business into Blue Star Distribution. And he invested in it on there, and I carried the rest. And we started to go out west. I can imagine a young man. He had a great job at General Dynamics on there, and going to his wife and his 4 children. So, by the way, we're moving from London, selling our house, putting all this money, this guy that my brother-in-law knows, and we're going to move to another part of the province. And he did. So then we started to grow. We went out west, and we built a facility out west to do packaging. And in Winnipeg.
It's in Winnipeg.
Yeah, and it was in Winnipeg. And we built a plant in Winnipeg. It was our first foray going into Western Canada. And it was customer driven. One of the manufacturers said, we want you out west, doing what you do here for us out west on there. So we went out west, and they took their product off the market after 1 year. And dummy me, I always have 3-5-year agreements, and I didn't on this one because it was so good on there. But we found another customer, John and I, on there in formulating and manufacturing. So we made our presence known in the West on there, because there's a competition out there in the West. Who are these guys from the East coming out here right now? And so we were growing there more. And then in 2008, I bought a large commercial building with 3 other partners. That used to be a General Motors parts distribution center in Ford worldwide, the biggest industry in the town of Tillsonburg. That was a huge facility. We couldn't get tenants, but it had rail. And I was trying to develop rail. Well, if you can't find a tenant, you become one. So that's when I called Monsanto, and they had their DeKalb seed operations in Chatham. We did all of their Roundup. We're closely, related to them in everyday processes. I made a phone call, and 30 days later, we had an LOI, and 6 months later, we're building a seed treatment plant and bagging facility in Tillsonburg, and converted this facility to DeKalb's National Distribution Center in bagging. So that kind of put us on the map again. We're growing, and we're shipping it out west. And we always had eyes of getting into warehousing in the West. And I got a phone call from a past employee who worked at Univar. And he says, our vice president's in town. He just wants to stop in and see you. From Univar, which we know back in the VWR days, which you know well. I bought a lot of chemicals in VWR days when I was an independent. They come over, we had a little chat, and then they kind of set their attentions down really why they were there. They'd like to buy Future Transfer. And I says, it's not for sale. I says, but I'd like to buy your Fort storage out west. Because they had a warehouse distribution company out west and one in Guelph. Oh, we don't want to sell it. And I said, well, we don't have a lot to talk about. And, they said, well, the two could just go together. I said, I know, that's why I'd like to buy it. So long story short, be careful when you get into these conversations. Once you sign NDAs, be careful, because I'll tell you, things can happen. It can happen fast. It basically came down to who could write the biggest check. Me to get Fort storage, or them to buy Future and Blue Star, and with John. And of course, I had to think about that so long and hard. And my wife was a big part of it on there. And John, we're so proud and everything, and thinking of employees. Because I'd already sold the retail business once, and I'd sold my long-haul trucking business, tanker company, in 2006 to Laidlaw or Contrans. So here we go again, but this is the whole enchilada.
Yeah.
I'm not breaking up. So long story short, I met their CEO, Eric Fearwald, and Univar was an industrial chemical distributor. But Eric had come from a background like in DuPont and Pioneer. He was an ag guy that was in an industrial. And I met him and his vision. And he says, Mike, if you buy this, or if we buy this, or whatever, and that, I want you to put your people in place, and we'll start Future Transfer in the U.S. And wow, it was a large sum of money that he said was there to go and build Future Transfer, not in the West, sorry, in the U.S. So we did the deal. Yeah. And we merged the operations together, and I ran Future on there. started going into the US, looking at plants, looking at their facilities, looking at acquisitions, some very large ones. They were serious. It was a large sum of money that they wanted to invest into this. And then as things happen, I get a text from somebody. He says, "You're going to get your socks knocked off at 5:00. There's an announcement." Well, Eric Fearwald left Univar and became CEO of Syngenta worldwide. So you get a new CEO. They have a different vision. The CapEx wasn't there to do things. So after a couple of years, Future was just, we merged Fortstar. It was cruising. It was doing well. But I didn't have the opportunity to grow and to go into new things. So I had a contract for term of years. We did a buyout and I left. And so I'm sitting there, we're talking to Trish, we got to do something on here. And so at another commercial property that we had bought with partners, we built an office in there. I kept the de-icing business that my son Michael runs.
Yeah.
And then we started starting up businesses. One was GP Capital, where I did leasing, just still do today. I like classic cars. I'm kind of a car guy, and anything with a motor and a steering wheel. Ended up with a used car dealership that sells cars. Still have it today, My Motors. And we do classics and restorations. And then John and I and several other gentlemen started up a VC, a private equity firm called Ag Capital Canada, which is, John DePutter and Jay Bradshaw, John Lansing, myself, and Greg Andruko from Alberta. What a dream team in ag. So we started a private equity firm on there. We finished our first round, starting our second round. It's going great. Got in the golf course business, but let's not talk about that. You need a tax write-off by a golf course with your friends on there. And so, yeah, we got into several other businesses, and the private equity, really takes a lot of your time.
Yes.
On investing into agricultural companies. And then, we had the GP Capital, the leasing side, the car side. We bought a tire place to merge with My Motors, still some tire in town. We bought little businesses here and there, put them all on. So, yeah, we were running several businesses, and then lo and behold, 3.5 years ago, we got a phone call. It was CFO of Univar, executive VP, wonderful gentleman that I negotiated with on the terms on there. And he says, in confidence, Mike, he says, we want to exit the agricultural market in Canada. Would you like to buy Future back? What did I say? First word, yep, of course, let's do it. We'll just reverse the deal and get it done, Carl. And we did. This time, I brought in senior management as partners in it, John and the Pereira family on there, and we bought it back. So now we got all these other businesses, and we got Future. And then, of course, we could grow it. We had the reins again. And there wasn't just one person that wanted to grow the heck out of a business and look all around. We had several. And we fed off each other, and Future's doubled in a couple of years in size. We've bought plants, built plants on there, and I believe we're like 2.4 million square feet of agricultural warehousing and plants in Canada.
Wow. So
it's very busy in our offices. We've had to bring in a lot of great accountants, financial people, and all different things, and with the related companies. And yeah, there's a lot of employees with all the related companies. The de-icing business, Tilson Brands, its flagship product is JetBlue, which is a de-icer. We bought a salt distribution company in Kitchener, largest retailer of water softener salt. So we buy bolt-ons on there. The de-icing business, we're very large across North America, built plants to package it. So yeah, life is very busy, and we're all in a lot of different directions. Still like to buy commercial property on there, sometimes sell it. And then, and as we speck, I'm bidding on 2 vehicles right now on auction sites. So I love my cars.
I think though too, when I hear all of this, you have these strong relationships with people, and you've cultivated those over the years. And I think my sense is that you trust people that you've brought close to you to help you to make these significant moves. I also think that it isn't always about the money with you. It's you just have this hunger and drive, which came from your dad, for sure.
Mhm.
Um, to just have everything's new, and anything that's some shiny silver ball, you want to be able to take it and create something bigger out of it, which I think is really cool.
When you get into another business or um, having partners is wonderful, but find the right ones that they know that business, have your same goals. And, a lot of people say, oh, what's the success to business or becoming an entrepreneur? And for years, I would always say, give the customer what they want when they want it. Okay, price will come last. On you focus on that and you will be successful. But listen, use your ears. But I would add a very strong caveat to that now is your network and relationships you build over the decades on it that you can reach out like-minded. Jay Bradshaw calling me marketing with Cyanamid. We're good friends, back in the day. And here we are, partners in Ag Capital Canada. Those type of relationships. Flying, I love flying on there and privately in that. And me and a few other people, we have an aircraft that we use for business and pleasure on there. It's an expensive thing. And a few years ago, I started up Blue Star Air Services, and now it's got 2 aircraft. It's a charter business. So we use it for business. We fly out west a lot. And for that, on there, when the planes aren't being used, they're chartered out. So I go, okay, it'd be great to have this aircraft and a hangar, all of this for business, and it's better, but it's very expensive. So you got to be frugal as well, rationalize things. You can't just be spoiled. So I turned it into a charter business and brought in a couple partners, strategic ones on there. So yeah, look at your networks, build relationships, build trust, and they'll come back.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. It's great advice for any young person that's going to watch this podcast to take back home with them and think about if they're starting a business or thinking about their future careers, for sure, because it does pan. It's also a very small industry, as we know. It's big, but it's small. So the network is very, very important.
Our our core values, are secure your base. That's financial on there. Continued growth. You always have to grow. And then the third one is remain small and connected, and that's a state of mind.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to take credit for those 3 core values. I plagiarized it. I stole that off somebody. You know where I read that?
No.
On the back of a VW&R business card.
Oh, that is really funny.
Way back, it was close to that, not exactly,
Yeah.
but way back in the day, VWR on there. And its history. It was like homegrown and the King family and everything on there. And that's where I kind of snatched it, changed it a little bit. But yeah, I wasn't scared to plagiarize that a little bit.
What about things that you wish you hadn't done in business? Was it I mean, it's not all like glory and sunrise and sunset that it can't possibly be. But and I don't want to dwell on that, but it's just interesting to hear about
It's
errors.
yeah. And it's something that I would tell any entrepreneur today on there. Probably the first 10, 12 years, yeah, we grew the business large and everything, but I always call it, I spun my wheels on there. I didn't have a good direction, as far as budgets and accounting and cash flows and all that. I had other people that did that with me. And I didn't, I just trusted that and look at, of course, I would buy everything I could. If I made $1, I would try and leverage 3 more against and buy something.
Mhm.
And then my accountants, that did our books, he'd sold his business off to his partners and couldn't work for a year, and I wasn't his customer. The new firm kept it. So he came and worked for me for years, an interim CFO, controller. And I told Rob, I says, and I'm going to teach you logistics. I had Rob on forklifts and packaging lines, and trucks, and at the counter and things. And he taught me accounting, finance, all that. Got me onto a course on the internet back then. We were computer savvy since 81, 82. We had the first computers. So I grew up with computers when they were the size of a fridge. And I remember doing an online course on accounting and finance that he had set me up through the University of Western. And then after like 6 or 8 months and learning it and going through financials, I could speak with the banks on their terms and language. I understand what debt to tangible net worth was. I understood what covenants were. I understood what your balance sheet needed to look like on there and build a roadmap. And once I had that or whatever, and that I stuck to it like glue. I wish I'd have done that earlier. I took accounting, I think in grade 1 year in high school.
Yeah.
I wrote the exam at Ridgetown and got exempted from the semester. You could do that on the first week. You remember that?
Yes.
And I don't know how I passed it, but I did. And I shouldn't have. I should have failed it and took it.
Right.
But understand accounting, and have a great controller, CFO person right beside you. And his desk or her desk better be right beside you. Like I had Trish and John on there in our offices together for the last 10, 15 years. And we were the dream team. You know, everybody knew what was going on. You know, you didn't even have to say it. You could just know it. So have a very strong financial person beside you. Don't be scared to make them a partner. Do what you got to do and share your vision. So that's one thing I wish I would have done earlier on there. The rest, you know, you really can. Yeah, I made mistakes. I made a lot of them. And it's not, like I tell people, it's not that I'm smart. I've just made those mistakes in the past. I know not to do them.
Yeah.
On there. So don't be ashamed of your mistakes. They're a big learning lesson on there. But those 3 core values, don't let it secure your base. Is it going to affect my financial stability? Yes, then get rid of it. If it doesn't, 2, growth on there. Yes, it's going to be a path to more growth. Good. Is it going to change our culture? And always have a strong culture of family in that, no matter how big you are on there. And that's why I say, you know, it's a state of mind. I want to remain small and connected on there. And that's using your ears. My dad used to always tell me, you know, the good Lord gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. I guess I talked a lot as a kid. And he would say, you know, if you be quiet for a while, your brain will fill up. When you talk, you empty your brain. So don't talk so much.
I can just hear him saying that too. Yeah. That's great. So, I mean, you're not going to slow down. I mean, you're still a very young man anyway. So what's next for you? What's your succession plan look like? Maybe you don't want to be dragged into all of the operations all the time. Maybe you're not as much as you were anyway. I'm not sure about that, but maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, one thing, I'm truly blessed that I don't work in any of the companies. I work on them, but I don't work in any of them on that. Even future on there, we have an incredible management team there on there. And I don't think I could do anything better, probably not, than where they are today, because they're so vested into it on there. And, you know, so going forward, I think I would just like to work with our team and our different companies on there, mentor them where needed. Where my expertise is good, I'll jump in there, and I'll take on a task or a project. Ag Capital Canada has fund 2 coming up. It's going to be quite large. That's very exciting, investing in agriculture. Like we're in dairy, we're in salmon farming in BC, you know, we're on all these different things on the technical side. I've learned so much and it's so exciting on there. So as long as I'm excited about something and I want to do something, people say, when are you going to retire? And I said, I am retired. Well, it doesn't look like it. Well, I was told retirement is doing what you want when you want to.
All right. Right.
And that's what I do. I do what I want when I want to. It just happens to have a lot to do with business, but and pleasure. I take my time. Look where I am right now.
Yes, right. No, I agree. You have lots of interesting interests that you pursue.
Yeah. So and you stay engaged and active. Your brain's going, and as my dad says, my computer still works. All that. That's what he would say. And so yeah, I'm just not. You know, I'm just not ready to go golfing every day, and a lot of people do it. It's wonderful and a great thing for them. It's just not in my DNA.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been just a great time to spend with you, Mike, or Mickey, or Mikey, all my favorite names for you from over the years. It's just been. I thank you so much for allowing us into your life and talking so transparent about your whole life, from the foundation of your parents and farming and right through to where you are today. It is a fascinating story, and I think when the production is released, I think a lot of people are going to be really interested and happy to hear this, and they'll sit back and go, "Mike Perovich, I didn't know all this about him." So it's a great story, and I want to thank you for giving me the time. I really wanted to do this with you. This was one of those things that I just wanted to have happen, and it has, and I'm thrilled.
Well, we go back a long ways, and how you worked with my father and that, and at the beginning, the girl behind the counter. I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for that book.
Yeah, that's
And, yeah, and but really, I think maybe I'm going to have to add a title or change a title on my business card, because I would say, yeah, this is nice to be a CEO or a president, but the number one thing I love the most right now is being a grandparent and the grandchildren. I'm very blessed with our family, my boys, their wives are just two of the most wonderful people in the world. And I would probably say, I'm more focused on that and enjoying that in there. So there's something that will probably maybe wane me or pull me away from business, is just spending time with my family, especially my grandchildren. They're awesome.
Great. That's wonderful. That really, at the end of the day, is all that matters.
It is. It truly matters on there. So, family, friends, put those two in front of everything.
Great. That's awesome. Well, thanks, Mike. And I think we can sign off now.
Well, thanks, Joni. It was a pleasure, and look forward to always talking and seeing you again. Stay in touch, dear.
You bet I will. You take care.
Cheers.
Bye.